startup, affinity.co/marketplace. And by Clear Channel Outdoor, an out-of-home billboard company harnessing innovation and technology to connect advertisers with consumers, billboardsforbusiness.com.
I'm David Brancaccio in New York. Americans have a better idea of the taxes they'll be paying in 2025 given new federal adjustments to standard deductions and income tax brackets. The annual tweaks matter especially for people with income that might be at the upper edge of their tax bracket. Does it flip to the higher tax or not? Marketplace's Elizabeth Troval has more.
When it comes to paying Uncle Sam, two big things to know in 2025 are that
the 7 tax brackets, they're all indexed higher.
Jim Buffington is a CPA at Intuit.
And 90% of taxpayers use the standard deduction in their tax returns. And that deduction is going to rise $400 for single filers and $800 for married filing joint filers.
Those changes are so the government doesn't take a bigger bite out of your sandwich than it should. They're adjusted this year to an inflation rate of 2.8%, says Alan Auerbach at UC Berkeley.
If your income went up by 2.8%, it really didn't go up at all because the cost of the things you're buying also went up by 2.8%.
So the tax system adjusts to reflect that. Alex Durante is with the Tax Foundation think tank.
The idea with the inflation adjustments is like, okay, holding this tax code constant, like how do we adjust, for inflation so that the tax liabilities don't change?
If we didn't make these adjustments, taxpayers would get bumped up to higher tax brackets, even if their purchasing power didn't go up. I'm Elizabeth Troval for Marketplace.
Also, remember, your effective tax rate is lower than the top tax bracket because the first chunks of income are taxed at 10, 12, or 22%, even if the top chunk gets 32 or 35, or for married filing jointly with adjusted income above $751,000, 37%. Markets, S&P futures are down 0.25%. I see NASDAQ futures down 0.5%. The 10-year interest rate is up at 4.22%, the highest since late July. That's a recognition the economy is still pretty strong.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Amazon Business, aiming to help save time by offering smart business buying solutions so there's more time to focus on growing the business and less time doing the admin. More at AmazonBusiness.com. And by C3 Generative AI, verified traceable answers, secure, hallucination-free, LLM-agnostic, IP liability-free C3.ai. This is Enterprise AI. And by Rubrik. When cyber attacks put businesses at risk, Rubrik provides the power to bounce back fast. More at Rubrik.com.
I'm LaFontaine Oliver, President and CEO of New York Public Radio. As we all navigate the challenges of the present and the uncertainty of the future, we need WNYC more than ever. It's up to all of us to keep it going, which is why I'm asking you to please give now. As we set out on a second century of public service journalism, your contribution during the pledge drive will allow us to stand strong. Give now at WNYC.org or call 888-376-WNYC.
That's 888-376-9692, or visit us online. That's at WNYC.org. There's a donate button at the top of the page. This is our fall fundraiser, all the money in half the time, and we're asking you to support us right now so that we can get back to the news and programming that you rely on. I'm Michael Hill. With us is Christina Newman-Scott, Executive Director of WNYC's Green Space. Christina, good morning.
Good morning, Michael. We are 100, but we are cute, Michael. We are cute. Okay, this morning we are fresh and we are celebrating being 100 years old because on July 8th in 1924, that is when we began broadcasting. So in the last 100 years, we have become the largest independent, mission-driven public radio station in the nation, and we believe that you deserve local information, local news that you can trust. So please consider a special gift in honor of this centennial. $100 a month, $10 a month, $100 donation, $20. Do what is right for you and call 888-376-9692 or click the donate button on our app or at WNYC.org.
Introducing the WNYC Centennial Tote Bag. This classic canvas tote with special bold red handles was a century in the making. One side features a custom design by native Brooklynite and muralist Katie Mers. Flip it over and you've got our Centennial logo, celebrating 100 years of stories, news, and connection. It's perfect for just about anything. Groceries, books, or honestly, just looking awesome while you wander around the city. It's not just a tote, it is a piece of public radio history. Make a contribution today, claim your Centennial tote, and support the news and shows you rely on. Do it now. Here's how.
You can go to WNYC.org. There's a donate button you can see there at the top of the
WNYC is supported by Carnegie Hall, presenting the New York Pops, led by Stephen Reinecke and featuring Max von Essen and an all-new program of American songbook standards and beyond. November 15th, tickets at carnegiehall.org.
Hey, WNYC listener, you're listening during WNYC's All the Money in Half the
WNYC is supported by Seed.com. Seed's DSO1 is a 24-strain 2-in-1 probiotic and prebiotic engineered to survive digestion, support healthy regularity, and promote whole body health. Learn more at seed.com/public.
888-376-9692. Operators are standing by, or you can go online, self-service, to WNYC.org. Click that donate button at the top of the page, and then check out some of the great gifts. Christina, some great gifts there for a lot of our fans.
Yes, absolutely right. I think they're phenomenal. And let me tell you, the tote especially, but you're going to hear a lot more about that later today. You know, I know one reason that you listen to WNYC is that it fits into your busy lifestyle. And so that's why we make contributing easy. We know you want to support WNYC, but you don't have a lot of time to spare. Making a monthly contribution as a sustaining member will take just a couple minutes. It's even easier with the streamlined donation page on our website. Every contribution is important, and it keeps WNYC open to all, especially during this All the Money in Half the Time fundraiser. So give at 888-376-9692. That's 888-376-WNYC, or give monthly online at WNYC.org.
That's WNYC.org, or you can call 888-376-9692. We have a brand new tote bag to celebrate 100 years of WNYC, the WNYC Centennial Tote. The new tote is white canvas with red straps. It's our Centennial logo on one side and a custom illustration by New York artist Katie Mers on the other. Make a donation of $100 to celebrate our 100-year legacy. We'll be happy to send you this tote. That's 888-376-9692 or WNYC.org. It's 7 o'clock. This is listener-supported Morning Edition. This hour, billionaire Tesla CEO and ex-owner Elon Musk is spending big to sway voters in key states to vote for President Trump. Former President Trump. Former Abercrombie & Fitch CEO Michael Jeffries has been indicted for allegedly running an international prostitution ring, and jury selection resumes in the trial of Daniel Penny. New York City's subway system is expected to play a central role. It is Wednesday, October 23rd. The news, the commute, the weather are all next on listener-supported WNYC. 61 and clear right now, sunny and 75 for a high today.
This is WNYC, FM, HD, and AM, New York.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. The election is fewer than 2 weeks away. Both candidates are making their case to voters, largely in swing states. Former President Donald Trump is in Georgia today for a town hall and a rally, while Vice President Harris will be in Pennsylvania for a town hall taped with CNN. The candidates are also stepping up their outreach to Latino voters. Trump held a roundtable with Latino leaders yesterday in Florida. He talked about immigration issues and highlighted his economic accomplishments from his presidency. Meanwhile, in an interview that will air on Telemundo tonight, Harris says her policies would create more opportunities for Latino workers. NPR's Windsor Johnston reports recent polls suggest Harris is slipping among some Latino voters, while Trump is maintaining his support.
Republican political consultant Mike Madrid studies Latino voting trends and behaviors. He says they're a fast-growing bloc that could play a key role in the outcome of the race.
For the first time in history, the Latino voter will be larger than the margin of victory in every one of the 7 battleground states. Arizona and Nevada have by far the largest share of the electorate that are Latinos.
Trump has gained traction with Latino men in particular, focusing on those who support his economic policies and favor crackdowns on illegal immigration. Harris says her agenda could create more opportunities for Latino men. Windsor Johnston, NPR News.
Former President Barack Obama told a crowd in Detroit last night that the race between Harris and Trump is too close for Democrats to stay on the sidelines. From member station WDET, Quinn Kleinfelter reports the rally came just days before in-person early voting begins across the swing state of Michigan.
Detroit rapper Eminem introduced Obama, who responded with a few lyrics from the music star's hit song Lose Yourself. Then Obama began his own series of hits against Donald Trump. He reminded those who feel the economy was better under Trump, it was the Obama administration that had to save banks and auto companies that were going bankrupt.
I know folks in Detroit remember it. I spent 8 years cleaning up the mess that the Republicans left me. Yeah, the economy was good because we did the work.
Both Trump and Harris are set to campaign again in Michigan this weekend. Michelle Obama will make her first joint appearance with Harris. For NPR News, I'm Quinn Kleinfelter in Detroit.
The World Health Organization says it has to suspend its polio vaccination campaign in northern Gaza. That's because of the violence and the chaotic conditions there. Relief organizations say the conditions are beyond catastrophic. The Israeli military continues to attack sites in Gaza, and Hamas militants are fighting back. You're listening to NPR.
And you're listening on WNYC. It's 60 degrees at 7:04. I'm Janae Pierre. Some immigrant rights groups and sex workers are demanding an end to a crackdown against prostitution and illegal vendors along Roosevelt Avenue in Queens. Theo Oshiro is the co-executive director of the immigrant advocacy organization called Make the Road New York. He was among those who rallied against the enforcement effort Tuesday. He says it's harming immigrants and people who are trying to make a living.
We believe that at the state level, sex work should be decriminalized, and at the same time that we need to provide real access to jobs and economic opportunity for the residents of Queens, really all residents of Queens.
Local elected officials say they've fielded numerous complaints from business owners and residents about a proliferation of sex workers and drug use along Roosevelt Avenue. MTA data shows subway ridership has surpassed 4.3 million daily riders 5 times this year. They say it's a benchmark that hasn't been since March of 2020. WNYC's Ramsey Khalife reports.
Before the pandemic, the subway saw nearly 6 million riders on a typical weekday. But the toll of COVID still is felt in the nation's largest mass transit system. The drop in commuting is tied to the growth of remote work over the last 4 years.
At this point, growth in ridership is going to really have to come from improved service, better quality, improved safety. Back to work's kind of stalled out.
That's Stanford economist Nicholas Bloom. He studies remote work habits. Consulting group McKinsey projects the subways will reach 80% of pre-pandemic ridership by 2026.
A new study offers insight into last spring's unusual earthquake that shook the New York region. The 4.8 magnitude earthquake's epicenter was in central New Jersey. But Columbia University researchers announced this week that a newly discovered fault line caused the seismic waves to be felt more strongly in New York City. Won-Young Kim is a co-author of the study.
Realistic scenario will be that this kind of magnitude 5 earthquake happened and will happen again. And usually it happens once in 100 years, but it can happen tomorrow. That is unpredictable nature of earthquake occurrence in this area.
Seismic experts say skyscrapers built on Manhattan's bedrock can withstand a magnitude 6 earthquake, but buildings constructed on landfill and sediment are more vulnerable. A look at your commute. Eastbound traffic delays on the BQE approaching Atlantic Avenue in Brooklyn because of a broken down vehicle. 60 degrees, sunny skies today with highs around 74.
Support for NPR comes from C3 AI. C3 Generative AI works to enable rapid access to hallucination-free insights from enterprise systems using any LLM, helping turn the invisible into the obvious. This is Enterprise AI.
This election will have a profound impact on our shared future. WNYC is here to report the facts we need to make informed choices, and we've cut this drive in half so we can get back to the election coverage you rely on. But we still need to raise the full amount of a normal drive. We are relying on you to make this All the Money in Half the Time fundraiser a success. We can't do that without your support. Donate now. Here's how.
By calling 888-376-9692 or pledging your support online. That's at WNYC.org. There's a donate button at the top of the page. While you're there, check out some of the wonderful gifts that we have. This is Morning Edition on WNYC. I'm Michael Hill, and with us is Christina Newman-Scott, Executive Director of WNYC's Green Space. As you heard Brian say, all the money in half the time. That's what Christina and I are doing right now, raising the money that keeps WNYC coming to you, and we're doing it in half the time so you can get back to the news and programming you rely on, you trust, and you value. We're asking you right now then to support WNYC by donating to WNYC. Call right now, 888-376-9692, or pledge your support online. That's at WNYC.org.
That's right, Michael. And we are proud and grateful to have served New Yorkers for the past 100 years. But today is about building a strong future for WNYC. We need your support to make that happen. Don't sit out this fundraiser. There's too much at stake. So please consider a special gift in honor of our centennial. You could give $10 a month, $1 for each decade, or $100 a month and join the Producer Circle. Just pick the amount that's right for you, okay? And call 888-376-9692 or click the donate button on our app or at WNYC.org.
The classic WNYC tote. You trust it with your groceries and books. You might even say you take it for granted. Now imagine a tote that is so special, it took us 100 years to make. It's the WNYC Centennial Tote. 100 years of trusted news and great conversations, all wrapped up in one very sturdy package. It's got our Centennial logo on the front to celebrate how far we've come, and a custom illustration by New York artist Katie Mers on the back to celebrate all the voices of the city. Plus, with those stylish red handles, it's perfect for carrying your groceries, books, or if you're a longtime supporter, other totes. Made especially for our 100th year anniversary, it's our way of saying thank you. Make a contribution and grab your Centennial tote right now. Here's how.
By calling 888-376-9692, or you can go online to WNYC.org. While you're there, there's a donate button at the top of the page. Please click on that and donate. There's also on that site all the wonderful gifts and images of the new Centennial tote. So check that out while you're there pledging your support to WNYC. We are raising all the money in half the time. That's right. We're cutting the fundraiser just down to 5 days instead of our typical 9 days so that you can get back to the news and the programming that you enjoy and you value on WNYC. But you have to act now to help us succeed. You can't wait. Don't put this off. Call now. 888-376-9692 or pledge your support online at WNYC.org.
I'm distracting Michael, folks. I'm so sorry. I can't help myself. I'm a Virgo. But let me tell you, if you can give $100 per month or more, we will invite you to join WNYC's Producer Circle. Producer Circle members get an inside look at what happens. So you get to like sit in the studio and look at Michael and then watch me distracting Michael on a morning like this. But most of all, you'll take pride every time you turn on the radio. For that gift of $1,200, just $100 a month, you'll know that your contribution worked behind the scenes to make great public radio here in New York City. It's especially important during this All the Money in Half the Time fundraiser To learn more about giving at the $100 a month level, go to our website, wnyc.org, or give us a call at 888-376-9692. That's 888. Yes, Michael, that's 888-376-WNYC. Michael trains me well, okay?
Thanks, Christina. 888-376-9692. And remember, check out that new Centennial tote. You can see it at wnyc.org. See it while you're making a donation. Thanks for your support.
It's Morning Edition from NPR News. I'm Leila Fadil in Washington, D.C.
Anna Mae Martinez in Los Angeles, California. Billionaire owner of Tesla and SpaceX, Elon Musk, is pledging to give away $1 million a day to registered voters who sign his Political Action Committee's petition. Is that legal? We'll ask a law professor in just a few minutes. But first, in the final days of the presidential campaign, both candidates are filling their calendars with interviews and events.
For former President Donald Trump, the grueling schedule is one he's handled twice before. But amid headlines about unusual campaign antics, there's a question. Is Trump veering off course?
For more, we're joined by NPR's political correspondent, Danielle Kurtzleben. So, Danielle, you've been following Donald Trump this week. What are you hearing?
Well, I'm hearing a candidate who's making zero attempt to be less inflammatory as a really close race comes to a close. At a rally in Greensboro, North Carolina last night, he delivered his usual rally speech in many ways, but also parts of it were ratcheted up. There were insults, for example. He said former President Barack Obama is a jerk. He also falsely suggested Vice President Harris is on drugs. He also, as he almost always does, demonized undocumented immigrants. But in this instance, he specifically framed them as taking jobs from non-white citizens.
Kamala is importing millions of illegals across our borders and giving them taxpayer benefits at your expense while taking the jobs from African Americans and from Hispanic Americans.
And he tells that lie as he is also pursuing specifically Black and Hispanic voters and especially targeting men in those groups.
Now, there's been a bit of a run lately about Trump being outrageous or acting strangely even. He's always had a different approach to politics. Danielle, what do you make of this?
To put it mildly, yeah. I mean, there was him playing music for his audience for half an hour, roughly, at a town hall recently while he just stood on stage. There was him in another rally where he had this lengthy riff about golfer Arnold Palmer, including alluding to the size of his genitals. And that's all on top of the many lies, for example, about saying that FEMA funds are being misspent. Again, no evidence of that. Now, yes, Trump is 78. There are questions about what of this is due to age. Now, I've watched him for years. A lot of us have. He is slowing down for sure. You could argue he rambles more, but also he has always been circuitous in how he talks. Now, to me, what's really interesting and that we can say for sure is that he isn't acting the way a candidate usually acts as a really close race is drawing to a close. I mean, look at Kamala Harris right now. She's out with Liz Cheney. She's emphasizing that she owns a gun. She's talking about being tough on crime. Trump is not reaching out to moderates in that same way in any way.
So what does that say about his strategy?
Well, I mean, we always say that it's all about turnout, right? But he in particular is leaning into that instead of persuasion. He does not seem concerned with that middle segment of voters. He's just trying to turn out anyone who might be sympathetic to him. And when he has guest speakers at his rallies, you hear them really getting at this, telling people, hey, get 10 of your friends to the polls. You hear that all the time. And this is something that his campaign has been saying a lot. They told me this a couple months ago about his strategy of going on all these podcasts. They say they just want Trump to get his message out to everyone, to leave no stone unturned. Well, we now know he's doing that more. He's doing an interview with Joe Rogan this week, who regularly tops the podcast charts. To bring all of this back full circle, though, to how he's acting, when Trump is being a loose cannon, he's doing the thing that makes his followers like him most. Now, is that a winning strategy? We don't know yet, but that authenticity has gotten him this loyal movement. He seems to think it'll carry him to a win.
That's NPR's political correspondent, Danielle Kurtzleben. Thank you very much, Danielle.
Thank you.
Is the richest man in the world, Elon Musk, breaking the law by offering cash to registered voters who sign a petition from his Super Political Action Committee, America PAC? The tech mogul is a powerful supporter of Donald Trump, and in the swing state of Pennsylvania, not only is Musk's political organization paying every registered voter who signs its petition $100 plus another $100 for every person they refer who sign, it's now offering a daily cash prize of $1 million to some lucky signer until Election Day. 2 people have already collected. To discuss this, I'm joined by Paul Schiff Berman, a law professor at George Washington University here in D.C. Good morning.
Good morning, Leila.
So, the big question, are these payments from Musk's PAC legal?
I think they're almost certainly illegal. Federal law is pretty clear that if you pay someone, or even if you accept payment from someone in return for registering to vote or for actually voting, that's a violation of federal law. And he says it's for signing the petition. And if it were only for signing the petition, that would be fine under federal law. But he's limiting the petition to the people he's going to give money to people who've actually registered to vote. And the whole point of this, obviously, is to get more Trump supporters to register to vote. And that's precisely what the federal law doesn't allow.
So it sounds like you don't buy the argument. I mean, he's saying he's just giving an incentive for people to sign his PAC's petition, not to actually register to vote. It just happens that it has to have only registered voters sign. So you're not buying that defense.
No, I don't buy that difference, because if he wants to just say, sign the petition and I'll give you money, and it's open to anyone, then that would be fine under federal law. But if by limiting it only to people who've already registered to vote, then he's providing an incentive to people to register to vote. And that's right in the wheelhouse of what this statute is trying to criminalize.
So both people accepting the money and giving the money could face penalties. What type of penalties under federal law if it was found to be a violation of election laws?
Well, the law says a fine of not more than $10,000 or imprisonment of not more than 5 years, or both. In this case, because these would be first offenses for Musk and or the people who accepted the money, I suspect that it would really only be a fine, and a fine of not more than $10,000 for Elon Musk is essentially nothing.
Now, a group of Republican lawyers and officials sent a letter to the Justice Department and Pennsylvania's Attorney General urging them to investigate. Do you think they'll take this up?
Well, they might, but it will take a while, right? So if the U.S. Attorney's Office in Pennsylvania wants to try to bring an indictment, they could impanel a grand jury, they could do a process. It clearly won't happen before the election, however.
Now, so then even if Musk were breaking the law and it sounds like it may just be a fine that wouldn't mean much to a man who has so much money, what difference does that make now? I mean, like you point out, there are less than 2 weeks to the election and these cash giveaways are being handed out right now.
Well, I think, it's hard to say whether Musk's scheme is going to have an impact. Obviously, it could have an impact on a close election, that could be decided by a few thousand votes. And the punishment and the fact that it's illegal probably doesn't matter that much. We've learned in the Trump era that just because something's illegal doesn't necessarily mean that there are consequences for it. And for some of Trump's supporters, I think the very nature of the sort of bad boy attitude of people like Musk and Trump himself is part of the appeal, that they don't really care about legal niceties. They don't care about democratic norms. They don't care whether it's technically illegal or not. And it's really part of the erosion of the rule of law in this country over the last decade.
And just in the few seconds we have left, have we ever seen anything like this before from rich supporters of one candidate or the other?
Well, maybe we'd have to go back to, William Randolph Hearst, who owned a huge media empire long ago. But, to have someone like Musk, who controls a huge international social media entity, putting his thumb on the scale for one candidate and then offering direct payments like this is pretty unprecedented.
That's Paul Schiff Berman, professor of law at George Washington University. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Former Abercrombie & Fitch boss Mike Jeffries is under arrest in a federal sex trafficking and interstate prostitution case. NPR's Lana Wise reports.
The arrest comes 1 year after 8 men accused Jeffries and his inner circle of sexually exploiting them at high-end parties. Jeffries' romantic partner Matthew Smith was also arrested, as was James Jacobson. Prosecutors say Jacobson recruited victims and helped set up the sex parties. Federal prosecutors charged Jeffries with 1 count of sex trafficking and 15 counts of interstate prostitution. Mitchell Epner, who was a federal prosecutor in New Jersey, said he thinks prosecutors have a strong case.
It is very high risk for the government to bring charges like this and lose, because it makes it much more difficult to prosecute other people in the future.
Prosecutors say Jeffries and Smith spent millions to create a, quote, massive infrastructure around sex events between 2008 and 2015. They say male models were flown internationally for the purpose of sex, often on the promise that the powerful fashion boss would help their careers or hurt them. The models were allegedly made to sign non-disclosure agreements that trapped them into silence. In an email to NPR, Jeffries' attorney Brian Bieber said they would respond in detail to the allegations, quote, in the courthouse, not the media. Jeffries is not the first powerful man to face sex trafficking charges recently after cases against Sean Combs and R. Kelly. Epner said these high-profile cases send a message that prosecutors will go after people who coerce sex from others.
I think the message to the public is that the United States Department of Justice is serious about prosecuting people who coerce sex from people who are otherwise unwilling, even if they are rich, powerful, and famous.
Jeffries led Abercrombie & Fitch for 2 decades, but left the company in 2014. He was arrested in Florida and will be taken to New York for arraignment. Alana Wise, NPR News.
This is NPR News.
Support for WNYC comes from Swan Galleries, with an auction of fine books on Thursday, October 24th, which includes rare and unpublished photographs of Ernest Hemingway during his World War I service. More at swangalleries.com. The following message is from the MTA. Riders can tap to pay for their New York City subway and bus rides with their phone, contactless bank card, or get a refillable Omni card. Details at omni.info.
Support for NPR comes from WNYC members and from Focus Features with Conclave, based on the novel. After the Pope's unexpected death, the Catholic Church's most powerful leaders gather to select a new Pope, uncovering a trail of deep secrets. In theaters everywhere this Friday. Workday. With AI at the core of its system, Workday is committed to delivering continuous innovation to prepare organizations for what's next. Workday, an enterprise platform for finance and HR rockstars. And The Nature Conservancy, working across oceans and isles to cut carbon emissions, protect lands and waters, and support local communities for a future where people and nature thrive. nature.org/solutions.
This is Brooke Gladstone. You know by now, since we love to talk about it, that this station has been around for 100 years, very close to the birth of broadcast radio. And it's been changing all the while in response to the news and the needs of our listeners and the wondrous and perilous onslaught of new platforms and tech. So, how to celebrate what we humbly call the WNYC century? Clearly, the best way would be to focus on the next one. What kind of journalism do you want today? Civil conversations that expand your horizons, trusted voices bringing you the facts as they emerge. Look, I'm not trying to be cutesy or coy, but if you've been liking what we do for however long you've been listening, help us ensure that WNYC is here for another 100 years. Here's how.
Yes, support the next 100 years on WNYC by pledging your support this morning. Call 888-376-9692, or you can do self-service right there online. That's at WNYC.org. Look for the donate button at the top of the page. This is listener-supported Morning Edition on WNYC. I'm Michael Hill, and with us is Christina Newman-Scott, Executive Director of WNYC's Green Space. Christina and I are raising all the money in half the time this morning, asking you to pledge your support right now to WNYC. And we're doing all the money in half the time so we can get back to the news and the programming that you value, that you rely on, and that you trust. So right now, call 888-376-9692 and pledge your support, or go online to WNYC.org.
Yes, Michael, good morning. And Brooke is so right. I just love Brooke's voice. I need to figure out how to get her, right? To wake me up in the morning with Brooke. I just love her voice. But we are 100 years old, and we are cute. And we are coming to you this morning because we have been doing a lot of work over these 100 years to ensure that you get the news, the in-depth features, and stories that you deserve to help ensure that you are a more informed New Yorker, right? So as we begin our second century of public service journalism, we need your help to make sure this essential New York City resource remains freely available to all. So please consider a special gift in honor of our centennial: $100 a month to join the Producer's Circle, $10 a month, one for each decade, or a $100 donation to celebrate this amazing moment. Choose the amount that's best for you and call 888-376-9692 or click the donate button on our app or at WNYC.org.
Introducing the WNYC Centennial Tote Bag. This classic canvas tote with special bold red handles was a century in the making. One side features a custom design by native Brooklynite and muralist Katie Mers. Flip it over and you've got our Centennial logo, celebrating 100 years of stories, news, and connection. It's perfect for just about anything: groceries, books, or honestly, just looking awesome while you wander around the city. It's not just a tote, it is a piece of public radio history. Make a contribution today, claim your Centennial tote, and support the news and shows you rely on. Do it now. Here's how.
By calling 888-376-9692, or check out the tote and other nice gifts right there on WNYC.org, and click that donate button at the top of the page there and support independent radio WNYC. We are raising all the money in half the time so we can get back to the news and the programming that you rely on, that you trust, and that you value. It means, as we cut this pledge drive short for you so we can get back to the news and the program, it means we all need to act, and act quickly, to support WNYC. Donate right now. Help us out. Help us reach our goal here, and help us reach success with this fall fundraising drive. 888-376-9692, or pledge your support online, and check out that new Centennial tote too. That's WNYC.org.
And that's why when you support us, you're going to get things like America Are We Ready, which is happening tonight with Brian Lehrer and host Kimberly Adams. They're going to be talking about the presidential candidates. So your donation is important tonight. Call 888-376-9692 or go to WNYC to donate at WNYC.org.
WNYC is supported by the Central Park Conservancy. Central Park is a living work of art, and even lifelong New Yorkers don't know its biggest secret, that it is cared for by the Central Park Conservancy. Learn more at centralparknyc.org.
WNYC, independent journalism in the public interest. 93.9 FM and AM 820. NPR News and the New York Conversation.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Dave Mattingly. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says his focus is on two areas as he continues his latest diplomatic effort to secure a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas in Gaza.
Get the hostages home and bring the war to an end with an understanding of what will follow.
Blinken was speaking to reporters at the airport in Tel Aviv following discussions with Israeli officials, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Blinken has more meetings today, this time in Saudi Arabia. This is Blinken's 11th trip to the region since war broke out between Israel and Hamas little more than a year ago. Former President Donald Trump was back in North Carolina last night, where he hit on familiar themes: stopping illegal immigration at the U.S. southern border and bringing down inflation in the economy. His Republican running mate, Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio, did the same at a campaign event in Arizona.
We are going to fight to lower grocery and housing prices for all of us. We're going to get back to an affordable American nation.
Vance was speaking to supporters in Tucson 2 weeks before Election Day. Vice President Harris tells NBC News the U.S. is absolutely ready for a woman to be president. In an interview with Telemundo, Harris described herself as a pragmatic capitalist, encountering Trump's assertion that she's a Marxist. This is NPR News.
And this is WNYC. It's 60 degrees at 7:31. I'm Janae Pierre. The Working Families Party finally tracked down a mystery candidate who's running on their line in a competitive Hudson Valley district. WNYC's Bridget Bergen reports.
Earlier this month, when I rang Anthony Frascone's doorbell, a man who declined to identify himself told me to leave my card at the door.
Sure, leave the card. We'll make sure he gets it.
Leaders from the Working Families Party, including co-chair Ana Maria Archila, tried again this week. They think Frascone is a Republican plant trying to spoil the close race between Democrat Mondaire Jones and freshman Republican Representative Mike Lawler. This time, he opened the door.
So we want to understand what your intentions really are.
So, because you made that statement, completely incorrect.
Despite their efforts, Frascone would not talk issues. He said his platform was Jesus Christ.
A look at your commute this morning. 4 trains are delayed entering and leaving Woodlawn. You've got delays on northbound B and Q trains. On New Jersey Transit, delays in both directions on the Atlantic City line. And eastbound traffic delays on the BQE approaching Atlantic Avenue in Brooklyn because of a broken down vehicle. You're listening to WNYC at 7:33. It's 60 degrees. It'll be sunny today with highs around 74. And tonight, partly cloudy with the low around 57.
Support for NPR comes from member stations and from Solidigm, focused on making solid-state storage optimized for performance and efficiency. Solidigm believes a new era in AI requires a new approach to data storage. StorageForAI.com. And Insperity, providing HR services and technology, from payroll, benefits, and HR compliance to talent development. Learn more at Insperity.com/HR Matters.
It's Morning Edition on WNYC. I'm Michael Hill. Jury selection is underway this week in the trial of Daniel Penny. He faces charges of manslaughter and criminally negligent homicide in the death of an unhoused man, Jordan Neely. Prosecutors say Penny went too far when he put Neely in a chokehold for about 6 minutes on an uptown F train. As WNYC Samantha Max reports, legal experts expect New York City's subway system to play a central role in Penny's trial.
Daniel Penny has said he was listening to music on an uptown F train when Jordan Neely boarded and started yelling. Penny says he took out his headphones and put Neely in a chokehold because people were scared. Soon, someone on the subway started filming.
Where are the cops? The cops?
A 4-minute video shows Penny on the floor with his arm wrapped around Neely's neck. The clip went viral. It underscored deep divides in the city and sparked protests.
Justice for Jordan Neely! Justice for
Neely had once danced around the city as a Michael Jackson impersonator. But more recently, he'd been homeless, using drugs, and cycling in and out of treatment for schizophrenia, according to court records. Penny is a former Marine from Long Island. Some people called him a hero. All this was playing out as many New Yorkers were concerned about crime, mental illness, and homelessness on the subway after the pandemic. Now, jurors will have to decide whether it's reasonable for commuters like Penny to take matters into their own hands when they feel unsafe on the country's largest subway system.
The subway is a microcosm of all of this.
Todd Spodek is a defense attorney who isn't connected to this case.
You're not in a large area where you could just walk away. You're stuck.
Attorney Vinu Varghese says he expects Penny's lawyers to try to pick jurors who can empathize with Penny and other riders who were scared on the subway that day.
I think people are fed up with what they have to deal with on the subway.
But Varghese says he doesn't think broader questions about subway safety will come up much in the prosecution's case. He says the DA's office will likely focus more narrowly on Penny's decision to keep squeezing Neely's neck and will tell jurors,
he just went too far. The danger, to the extent that there was danger, was over, and he kept holding on to this guy, and he's a trained military guy. He's not your ordinary citizen, and so he should have known that he was going to kill this guy.
Varghese says he's not sure what jurors will decide.
It's a tough call, and it'll come down to what they think and whether they like him. And I think if he testifies, he better be likable. Otherwise, he's going down.
Last week, I stopped by the Broadway Lafayette station. That's where the train stopped after Penny put Neely in a chokehold. Brooklynite Nadia Belov told me she knows what it's like to feel scared on the subway.
Sometimes people are screaming. Sometimes I've seen a guy throw stuff, and then you're in the car as it's moving and someone is throwing something, and then at that point you no longer know what the person will do. So you're like, what do I do? I don't want to be in the middle of this if something goes down.
Belov says when something like that happens, she normally switches cars at the next stop. So does Al Vial, who I also happened to meet at the station. He says he was friends with Neely, and he says there was no need for a chokehold.
He might just broke or flipping, but for him to do what he did, he's going to have to pay the price.
Al says if he were the one on the train that day, he would have walked away. Samantha Max, WNYC News.
I'm LaFontaine Oliver, President and CEO of New York Public Radio. Right now, WNYC needs your help. Journalism across the country is facing serious financial pressures, and we are not immune. These are challenging times, but we will get through them thanks to our community of listeners. Please support WNYC during this All the Money in Half the Time pledge drive. Go to WNYC.org or call 888-376-WNYC.
That's 888-376-9692, or you can pledge your support online at WNYC.org. As you heard LaFontaine mention there, all the money in half the time. It means we're still going for our goal, but we're doing it in half the time. What that requires is your support. We need you to step up. Don't put this off. Go ahead and donate to WNYC to support what you value, to support what you rely on, to support what you trust. I'm Michael Hill, and with us is Christina Newman-Scott, Executive Director of WNYC's The Green Space. We are raising all the money in half the time, Christina, so we need our listeners to act right now.
Yes, Michael, we do, because we are 100 years old. WNYC began broadcasting 100 years ago on July 8th, 1924, and we have not only survived, but thrived for a century, thanks to our listeners who provide our largest source of funding. So as we begin our second century of public service journalism, we need your help to make sure this essential New York City resource remains freely available to all. So consider a special gift in honor of the centennial. I personally love the $10 a month. That's $1 for each decade, right, Michael? Michael loves the $100 a month, and you join the producer's circle. Or you could just make a $100 donation to celebrate this 100-year legacy. So choose the amount that's best for you and call 888-376-9692 or click the donate button on our app or at WNYC.org.
Introducing the WNYC Centennial Tote Bag. This classic canvas tote with special bold red handles was a century in the making. One side features a custom design by native Brooklynite and muralist Katie Mers. Flip it over and you've got our Centennial logo, celebrating 100 years of stories, news, and connection. It's perfect for just about anything. Groceries, books, or honestly, just looking awesome while you wander around the city. It's not just a tote, it is a piece of public radio history. Make a contribution today, claim your Centennial Tote, and support the news and shows you rely on. Do it now. Here's how.
Yes, go to WNYC.org and you can see the new Centennial Tote. We're unveiling that this morning, 100 years, to celebrate 100 years of WNYC and also to look forward to the next 100 years. To support that with your donation, you can also call 888-376-9692 and pledge your support there. Operators are standing by to take your call. We're raising funds here for WNYC, all the money that we can in half the time. It means we're still going after our goal, but we're just taking half the time to do it. And that means we need our listeners, that means you, to step up, don't put it off, and support us right now. Call 888-376-9692 or pledge your support online. Look for that donate button at the top of the page. That's at WNYC.org. And check out those great gifts, including the new Centennial Tote.
That tote is gorgeous, not just because I worked on it, but it is truly gorgeous. It was really Katie Murs worked on it, and we are so lucky that she did. I gotta tell you, Michael, there's a lot of ways that you can spend $1 a day, but there's only one, Michael, that will keep you informed. I hope you're listening. It will keep you informed, entertained, and connected to the world around you, and that's WNYC. Listener contributions are the largest source of funding for everything you get from WNYC. So your $365 donation will keep all the programs you value on your radio for another year and help us to reach our goal during this All the Money in Half the Time fundraiser. So call 888-376-WNYC. That's 888-376-9692, or go to WNYC.org and click on Donate.
That's WNYC.org, or you can go ahead and go right on their phone and put in those numbers, 888-376-9692, and show us and show yourself how much you value WNYC and how much you rely on what WNYC provides for you and your family and your friends in your household. Support us right now. We have a brand new tote to tell you about this morning, this WNYC Centennial Tote. This new tote is white canvas with red straps. It's our Centennial logo on one side and a custom illustration by New York artist Katie Murs on the other. Make a donation to celebrate our 100-year legacy. We'll be happy to send you this tote. Call now. 888-376-9692. That's 888-376-WNYC. Or you can go right online and see that tote. That's at WNYC.org. And check out some other great gifts there and look for that donate button at the top of the page. Thank you.
Support for NPR comes from WNYC members and from Sony Pictures, presenting the new movie Here, reuniting the director, writer, and stars of Forrest Gump. A tale of love, loss, laughter, and life. Here is only in theaters on Friday, November 1st. And Indeed, designed to be an end-to-end hiring solution for businesses of all sizes to attract, interview, and hire candidates, all from one platform. Learn more at Indeed.com/NPR.
This week, WNYC's election series, America, Are We Ready? Looks at the presidential candidates' different approaches to the cost of child care and elder care. Join our Brian Lehrer and his co-host Kimberly Adams of Marketplace. They'll take your calls about the cost of caring for everyone and how it's affecting your politics. Tune in tonight at 8 right here on 93.9 FM, AM 820, or live stream it at WNYC.org. It's 7:45 and it's Morning Edition on WNYC. Thanks for tuning in this morning. The Brian Lehrer Show is coming up at 10 this morning. As our Centennial series continues, Mary Ziegler, UC Davis law professor and the author of Roe, The History of a National Obsession, and the forthcoming Personhood, The New Civil War Over Reproduction, reviews the history of abortion law in the USA. Plus, our Elizabeth Kim joins the conversation to recap what Mayor Adams had to say yesterday in his weekly news media availability. That's at 10 this morning on WNYC. Right now, John Schaefer has our gig alert.
Keith Jarrett will forever be known as a pianist, but in 1987, he released Book of Waves, a set of improvisations played on 2 clavichords, Baroque-era keyboard instruments. Clavichords use a plucking mechanism and are so quiet that they can't be heard if you're more than a few feet away. So, when the New York orchestra known as the Knights decided they wanted to play this music live, they had to get creative. So they got Michael Atkinson to do an arrangement of some of this music, and pianist Aaron Deal will play the slightly louder harpsichord to keep that centuries-old sound. That's Book of Ways Part 4 by Keith Jarrett in his original recording on 2 clavichords. Tomorrow, the Knights premiere the orchestral arrangement of the Book of Ways Suite at Carnegie's Zankel Hall. Get full info at newsounds.org.
Sunshine across the region right now. We're at 60 in the city, sunny and 75 today. Be careful out there because you have an increased risk of fire spreading because it's so dry and windy. It's 7:47.
This is Morning Edition from NPR News. I'm A. Martinez.
I'm Layla Falden.
And I'm Michelle Martin in Philadelphia. You never know who you'll run into on the sidewalk in Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Mi nombre es Matt. Yo soy el alcalde de Allentown in Pennsylvania.
That's the mayor, Matt Turk. He was rolling by on his bike on his way to one more campaign rally in the closing days of this election season.
I'm the first Latino mayor of a majority Latino city. I've been mayor for 2.5 years.
What brought you to Allentown?
My grandparents were still living here. My abuela, mi Mimi.
Well, we're living here in Allentown, and they're closing all the factories down.
The Billy Joel song. It's a great song, I guess, but it's so wrong. It was written in 1982 about a different era, and since that time, Allentown has completely changed.
We find out just how much has changed when we step inside a cozy Mexican restaurant owned by Greenberg Lemus, who's from Honduras, by the way.
Welcome. Thank you very much for coming to Grandpa's Kitchen.
The host of a Latino Affairs show in the local public radio station asked people she knew to come by and give us their thoughts about the election. They trickled in while deliciousness was set down on a long center table. Fried plantain, guacamole and chips, fried yuca, fresh coffee. It's a diverse group, straight, gay, married, single, a retired steelworker, a police chaplain, a writer, some citizens by birth, others with a different road to citizenship, but they all had something in common. They all vote, and they said they take their identities as Latinos into the voting booth with them.
I already filled in my ballot and mailed it in, and I can feel the rush of my ancestors going through me.
Latinos are now considered a coveted swing vote all over the country, including in places you might not expect, like here in Allentown, where Latinos make up 54% of the population. Some in this group, like Guillermo Lopez, are all in for Harris.
Yeah, if I keep talking, I get weepy because I never imagined in my life that I would be voting for someone that looks like my daughter.
Yeah, I can see that it makes you emotional. Why do you think it does?
I just didn't think it was possible.
Lopez, like his father before him, was a steelworker and now spends much of his time volunteering. He's wearing a Pennsylvania for Harris button and a bracelet that reps his Puerto Rican heritage.
Especially since it seems like there's this desire to turn back the clock on how it is that we care for each other.
Lopez is sitting across the table from Aurea Ortiz. She's the one who helped pull the group together, and I asked her why she thinks Latinos have become such an important swing vote.
Our Latino vote cannot be taken for granted because people think, oh, these Latinos vote for this and that. We're more intentional in our vote. So if you really promise something, you better comply with whatever you promise. To the politicians that think that we're dumb enough that we don't remember things, we are very intelligent voters.
Next to Ortiz, Liberca Banks. She's a writer, a member of a queer writing collective, and a new U.S. citizen. Originally from the Dominican Republic, she's voting for the first time.
I am voting for the people who are getting paid on Friday and not having any more money Sunday, Monday. For the people that are underpaid, for my kids, and for my family, because we are part of a minority.
And Banks says many Latinos come from countries where they think things will never change. That's why they leave. So hope for a different future drives their vote.
And we are so used to not have hope that we think it's gonna stay like that. We're gonna stay here working in our warehouse and they can do whatever they want.
Lydia Ramos moved to Pennsylvania from Puerto Rico decades ago.
As a pastor, I don't say vote for this and that, but you have to read and vote.
Her congregation is the Allentown Police Department.
I have 28 years as a Allentown police chaplain, and that's the best job we have in the city.
What drives your vote?
Well, I prefer to say we would like to have more Hispanics. That's my goal.
Alpha Lopez lives in Allentown too. She says she's undecided.
My honest opinion, I don't think the United States in general is ready to have a female. And with that being said, I believe that Donald Trump is going to win.
But you're not sure you're going to vote. You're saying you're not sure you're going to vote?
I don't want to make a mistake or just be like, oh, she's a female and she's African American, then I got to go for it. Okay, you have to study hard and you have to study every candidate.
Jose Rivera was tight-lipped about who he voted for in the last election. This time around,
I can say the messaging on both sides has been horrible, because I've said this to some of the Democrats today when someone called my house and said, you know, vote for us because you don't want a convicted felon in the White House. And I'm like, hold up, but I'm a convicted felon. I might not like him, but now you push me towards him. One person asked me, why would you vote for him? I was like, hey, because if he can win the White House, I can go for city council. I can go for mayor. Like, it opens up doors.
Rivera also wants more consistent attention.
Some of our community votes for Trump because they've been neglected by the Democrats for far so long. Now it's an election season. Now you want to come razzle-dazzle the Latino community. And it's like, we've been ignored for how long?
And one thing that stood out in our conversation is that no matter where they came from, pride in their Latino heritage did not mean they wanted to be defined by it. Luis Acevedo, who manages a plumbing supply company, said the tone of the current political discourse, especially attacks on people's ethnicity, is painful, even if it's not directed at him.
We got to go back to politics what it was back in the days, about what you're going to do for us, not what she's not doing for us or what he's not doing for us.
You feel like it's all about identity, like who are you?
Correct.
Who are you for?
Correct.
And who are you against? Not what you're going to do.
Correct. And there's nothing about what they're going to do for us as citizens of the United States of America.
Another thing that also became clear is that many of these voters received messages differently than the messengers intended. For example, a number of the Puerto Rican voters we talked to felt attacked and offended by anti-immigrant rhetoric, even though, as American citizens, they're not immigrants. And as Allentown's Mayor Turk told us, their identities and their concerns are deeper and broader.
There's a very high level of practicality among folks who live in the Lehigh Valley. The people have changed a little bit over time, but we're fundamentally Americans. I mean, when you're talking about voters, you're talking about American values. So whether we speak Spanish or we speak, or grew up multiple generations in Pennsylvania, we're pursuing the interests of our children. We're also looking out for our neighbors.
As the mayor tightened his bike helmet before heading off to his rally, he made it clear why he was going. His constituents, voters like the ones we talked to, are taking the election seriously. They take their citizenship seriously and want to be taken seriously in return.
That's our co-host, Michelle Martin. She and Steve Inskeep have been reporting all week from Pennsylvania for our We the Voters series. And tomorrow, they bring us a special show live from a South Philly coffee shop.
That's right. We're going to hear more of Michelle and Steve's reporting. Pennsylvania Democratic Senator Bob Casey will stop by as Steve and Michelle host Morning Edition in front of a crowd with live music from a local singer-songwriter.
So we hope you'll join them tomorrow. You can listen live on the NPR app or your local station. This is NPR News.
WNYC supporters include the Columbia Scholastic Press Association, inviting high school journalists to their annual conference November 4th at Columbia University. Registration and more at cspa.columbia.edu. Shepherd Mullen, a global law firm with more than 1,000 lawyers handling corporate and employment matters, key litigation, IP, and complex financial transactions for companies in New York and beyond. More at shepherdmullen.com. WNYC is a media partner of the 2024 African Diaspora International Film Festival, celebrating African and African diaspora cultures through global films, special events, and conversations. November 29th to December 15th. More at nyadiff.org.
A healthy democracy relies on informed citizens, and informed citizens rely on independent news they can trust. We've cut the drive in half so we can get back to the news and you rely on. And we rely on you for the amount we would normally need to raise in a full-length drive. It's a challenge. It's a risk. And we need your help to succeed. Please help by becoming a member right now. Here's how.
By calling 888-376-9692 or pledging your support online. That's at WNYC.org. This is listener-supported Morning Edition on WNYC. I'm Michael Hill, and with us is Christina Newman-Scott. She's the Executive Director of the WNYC Jerome L. Green Space. It's WNYC's All the Money in Half the Time membership drive this morning. That means we're raising all the money that we can, as if we were holding a 9-day pledge drive. But we cut that in half, so we'd still have to raise the same amount of money, but just in half the time. You can help us do it. Call right now, 888-376-9692, or pledge your support at WNYC.org.
Good morning, Michael. Yes, we are 100 years old and we are cute, and you keep us cute, okay? I'm going to keep it real with you. You keep us cute because we give you the information, the news that you deserve. It helps you to be a more informed citizen, and you've been hearing about this fabulous tote that we have that looks really great. If you want to see the artwork, at the public art component of that artwork by Katie Mers, come down to 160 Barrett. You'll see it in our street front windows, 160 Barrett and 44 Charlton. Katie has done that exact design from the tote on our windows. So consider, please, a special gift in honor of our centennial today, $100 a month to join the Producer Circle, $10 a month, $1 for each decade, or a $100 donation. This is what Michael does. He gives a $100 donation every day. And you could try to be just like Michael and do that because we need it and we appreciate it. So choose the amount that's best for you and call 888-376-9692 or click the donate button on our app at WNYC.org.
Introducing the WNYC Centennial Tote Bag. This classic canvas tote with special bold red handles was a century in the making. One side features a custom design by native Brooklynite and muralist Katie Mers. Flip it over and you've got our Centennial logo, celebrating 100 years of stories, news, and connections. It's perfect for just about anything. Groceries, books, or honestly, just looking awesome while you wander around the city. It's not just a tote, it is a piece of public radio history. Make a contribution today, claim your Centennial tote, and support the news and shows you rely on. Do it now, here's how.
By going to WNYC.org, you can click the donate button at the top of the page there. While you're there, check out some of the wonderful WNYC gifts. Thank yous to you for supporting WNYC. That includes that new WNYC Centennial tote. You'll see it there. That's one Christina was just talking about with the beautiful artwork on it by Katie Mers. Check it out, and donate while you're there. This is the fall fundraiser for WNYC. We call it All the Money in Half the Time because we're trying to raise all the money literally in half the time so we can get back to the news and programming you enjoy, you rely on, you trust, and you value. Call us now, 888-376-9692 to pledge your support to WNYC.
That's right, Michael. And if you could put your nickels and pennies into the radio every day in exchange for all the news, information, and music on WNYC, would you do it? As I've been teaching Michael in our patois lesson this morning, every mickle, make a muckle. Let's hear it, Michael.
Every mickle, make a muckle.
Close. You're doing real good. Thankfully, you don't have
I got another one for you.
Which one?
1-1 Cocoa full basket.
A+. You are an A+ student, sir. Okay, so a gift of $365. Just $1 a day will bring you more of the reporting and programming you're going to listen to every morning because every mickle, make a muckle, and 1 cocoa full basket. So give now during this All the Money in Half the Time fundraiser at 888-376-9692. That's 888-376-WNYC or contribute online at WNYC.org. And thank you.
Your support enables us to bring you WNYC's Morning Edition. Coming up this hour, surrogates for the major presidential candidates made their closing arguments yesterday in Philadelphia. Control of the House of Representatives could come down to California, where at least 5 House seats may be among the closest in the USA. And New York City does not have any competitive congressional races this year, but the city's handling of migrants has become a major issue elsewhere in the Empire State. It's Wednesday, October 23rd. The news, the commute, the weather, next on WNYC.
This is WNYC, FM, HD, and AM New York.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. Former President Donald Trump completed a second straight day of campaigning in North Carolina yesterday. At a rally in Greensboro, he promoted early voting. But as the campaign enters its final 2 weeks, Trump also continued to say inflammatory things to the delight of his fans. NPR's Danielle Kurtzleben reports.
Trump spoke for more than an hour and a half, longer than he has spoken at many recent rallies as he accelerates campaigning ahead of Election Day. In his speech, Trump once again lied and said he won the election in 2020, as he has done many times, and falsely claimed that undocumented immigrants are, quote, conquering towns. He also insulted his opponents, calling former President Barack Obama a jerk and suggesting Kamala Harris is, quote, on drugs. Former Democratic Congresswoman and presidential candidate Tulsi Gabbard also made a brief appearance, voicing her support for Trump and announcing that she is now a Republican. Danielle Kurtzleben, NPR News, Greensboro, North Carolina.
Vice President Harris says her campaign is prepared for various post-election scenarios. That includes the possibility that former President Trump might try to declare victory before all the votes are fully counted. NPR's Deepa Shivaram reports.
In an interview with NBC News, Harris said, quote, of course her team is considering that Trump will try once again to subvert the election. But in the next 2 weeks, she says she's focused on beating him.
And we will deal with election night and the days after as they come, and we have the resources and the expertise and the focus on that as well.
Harris pointed to Trump's actions during the January 6th insurrection on the Capitol and called it a, quote, serious matter. Deepa Shivaram, NPR News.
Secretary of State Anthony Blinken is in Saudi Arabia today. He's continuing the Biden administration's push for a ceasefire in Gaza. There's no sign that stalled peace talks may resume. A new United Nations report says it could take 350 years to bring Gaza's economy back to pre-war levels. And NPR's Kat Lonsdorf reports Gaza's economy was already precarious before this current war began.
The report by the UN Organization for Trade and Development lays out various scenarios for Gaza's economic recovery. The assessment of 350 years for recovery is based on Gaza's low previous growth rate and the destruction in the past year of war. Before this current war, Gaza's average yearly economic growth rate was just 0.4%, due in large part to an Israeli and Egyptian blockade after Hamas seized power in 2007 and multiple other wars. This war has left critical infrastructure in ruins and neighborhoods and roads obliterated. The report points out that if conditions are improved, with significant investment and no blockade or military operations, recovery could be faster. But even in the most optimistic scenario, it will still take until 2050. Kat Lonsdorf, NPR News, Tel Aviv.
You're listening to NPR News from Washington.
And you're listening on WNYC. It's 61 degrees at 8:04. I'm Janae Pierre. A new candidate has entered next year's race for New York City Mayor. State Assemblyman Zoran Mamdani from Queens says he'll be joining the field of primary challengers running against Mayor Adams. Mamdani is the fifth candidate to enter the race against the sitting mayor. Adams is facing federal corruption charges and has pleaded not guilty. But Mamdani says the mayor is overseeing another crisis at City Hall.
New Yorkers are being crushed by rent and childcare. Working people are being pushed out of the city in what they built. And Eric Adams has no answers to this crisis.
Mamdani is a Democratic socialist who represents Western Queens. He says he'll run a campaign on faster and free buses, a rent freeze for all stabilized apartment units, and universal child care. He was first elected to the state assembly in 2020. Governor Kathy Hochul says the latest phase of the redevelopment surrounding the LIRR's Ronkonkoma station aims to ease the housing shortage on Long Island. The more than $1 billion project, dubbed Station Yards, celebrated its grand opening yesterday.
I hold this out as an example to others across the state who say, no, transit-oriented development sounds a little scary to me. We really don't want to go there. We don't really know. Come to this community. Talk to the residents who now have a home here. talk to the business owners whose businesses are just flourishing.
Officials estimate it will eventually provide more than 1,000 new housing units along the retail spaces and offices. The goal is to revamp the area, transforming it from a congested, car-centric zone into a pedestrian-friendly neighborhood. There's a new effort to pass another piece of legislation inspired by the beloved late New York City owl, Flacco. WNYC's Julia Hayward explains.
Local unions and a wildlife advocacy organization known as the Lights Out Coalition are among those rallying in support of the bill, which would require certain buildings replace reflective glass with bird-friendly materials. Their goal is to create jobs and prevent window strikes, which they say kill an estimated 250,000 birds each year. New York City Council has already passed 2 Flacco-related bills, known as Flacco's Laws, including one that establishes a rat contraception pilot program. Flacco died after colliding with a building while compromised by rat poison. His journey raised awareness about the dangers birds face from glass and other urban hazards.
61 degrees at the moment. It'll be sunny today with highs around 74. Partly cloudy skies tonight with a low around 57.
Support for NPR comes from the Nature Conservancy, working across oceans and isles to cut carbon emissions, protect lands and waters, and support local communities for a future where people and nature thrive. nature.org/solutions. I'm Allison Stewart. To celebrate 100 years of WNYC, here's an idea for a gift. Donate $1 for each decade. That would be $10 a month. Or if you can, for each year, that would be $100 a month. Or $1 for each time you've listened to a story and felt informed, enlightened, entertained, or deeply moved. That would be, a few thousand maybe? Is it possible to truly put an exact dollar amount to the value you get from WNYC? So how about this? Give exactly the amount you can. And with your support, WNYC will continue to bring you too many great moments to count. Make your contributions right now. Here's how to help.
By calling 888-376-9692 and telling an operator how much you want to support WNYC. Or you can go online to WNYC.org and pledge your support there. Listener-supported WNYC, that's what we are. We say listener-supported because that means you. Right now, in this All the Money in Half the Time membership drive, we're asking you to step up and support what you value, what you hear, just as Allison was saying. 888-376-9692 or pledge your support at WNYC.org. I'm Michael Hill, and with us is Christina Newman-Scott, Executive Director of WNYC's Green Space. Christina, good morning.
Good morning, Michael. And WNYC has not only survived, but as you heard from Michael, we have thrived for a century thanks to your support. We are supported by our listeners, and you guys provide the largest source of funding. So as we begin our second century of public service journalism, we need your help to make sure this essential New York City resource remains freely available to all. So please consider a gift today, maybe $100 a month, $10 a month, $1 for each decade, or just a donation of $100. Choose the best amount that's right for you and call 888-376-9692 or click the donate button on our app or at WNYC.org.
Introducing the WNYC Centennial Tote Bag. This classic canvas tote with special bold red handles was a century in the making. One side features a custom design by native Brooklynite and muralist Katie Mers. Flip it over and you've got our Centennial logo, celebrating 100 years of stories, news, and connection. It's perfect for just about anything. Groceries, books, or honestly, just looking awesome while you wander around the city. It's not just a tote, it is a piece of public radio history. Make a contribution today, claim your Centennial tote, and support the news and shows you rely on. Do it now, here's how.
Go to WNYC.org, look at that donate button, click on it there to support WNYC, and then check out that new WNYC Centennial tote. We have pictures right there online and other wonderful thank you gifts as well. Thank you for supporting WNYC. That's what that's all about. 888-376-9692 is another option, another way to support financially support WNYC. This is our fall fundraiser. We're calling it All the Money in Half the Time. We're cutting short the pledge drive here to go back to the news and the programming that you enjoy. So all the money, that's what we mean in half the time. Support us now. Donate now. 888-376-9692 or go online to WNYC.org.
Michael, what do you put in your tote? Like, I put vegetables, fruit. I will take mine to the corner store, but is there something that you use your tote for?
A book. When I'm traveling to the city, I put all kinds of stuff in there. I put gum in there. I put coins in there. I put cash in there. Everything.
These are good things. You know what you can also put in there? Because in New York, we're always running around. Shoes. It's cute. You can put your shoes in there to do the switch out. You don't really have to do that, I expect, but that's what I do. I put my heels in there. So your donations really support us. And tonight, you'll hear more from Brian Lehrer and his co-host Kimberly Adams for America Are We Ready? That's happening tonight because of your support. So you're going to hear them talk about the different approaches that the presidential candidates are taking to the cost of elder care, child care. You can call in, share your stories about the cost of care and how it's affecting the politics, right? Your politics. It's tonight at 8 o'clock on WNYC. So your donation supports the election coverage that you rely on from WNYC. Call 888-376-9692 or go to WNYC.org.
It's Morning Edition from NPR News. I'm A. Martinez in Los Angeles, California.
And I'm Leila Fadil in Washington, D.C. Good morning. Our co-hosts Michelle Martin and Steve Inskeep are in Pennsylvania to talk to swing state voters about their choice. They hosted a live event last night at member station WHYY in Philadelphia. Among the guests, NPR political correspondent Susan Davis.
I feel like the polls are really accurate right now. Close race, within the margin of error. It does feel like this is a race and this is a state that at this point in the campaign, it is just nuts and bolts. Turnout, operation, motivation.
Economist Kent Smetters and WHYY reporter Carmen Russell-Sluchansky discussed the national debt.
It's like our fiscal house is burning down, and these two are arguing over the furniture. Both of them are going to increase the debt while actually contracting the economy.
Carmen, has any one person you've interviewed over the course of this election year mentioned the debt to you as an issue? Has anybody?
Actually, that has not come up a lot.
An immigration expert, Muzaffar Chishti, said the country is coming to terms with profound changes.
And the facts we can all, bandy about. It's not about facts. It is about identity and culture.
Also in the hot seat, two surrogates for the campaigns, Pennsylvania Democrat Madeleine Dean and Florida Republican Byron Donalds. The two House members offered closing arguments for their candidates, and we're going to play portions of those interviews now. With less than 2 weeks to go, Dean thinks late deciders will break for Vice President Kamala Harris.
I don't like hearing the polls when I wake up, but what I can tell you is what I'm seeing on the ground that I have never seen in the 3 or 4 presidential campaigns that I've been a part of. And that is energy on the ground.
She insisted that in a brief campaign, Harris has laid out some idea of what she stands for.
I think she has detailed policies that she wants to work on. For example, home ownership, affordable housing, building more housing stock. In talking about the economy, making sure small businesses have a shot, people have a shot at a house, an opportunity economy, as she calls it.
Let me talk about one aspect of that economy. We've been talking with voters across the state, heard a lot of things, a lot of positive things about Vice President Harris and negative things about Vice President Harris. Some of the more negative things that you will hear from swing voters or undecided voters are words like fake or insincere. And there was a voter, he's a Trump supporter for sure, in Western Pennsylvania who's involved in the fracking industry. I said, well, Vice President Harris said she also supports fracking. She's not opposed to fracking. And he simply did not believe that in the details that was going to prove to be true. Ultimately, he believed Democrats were going to put more regulatory hurdles in the way of his business. Would you agree with him?
No, I wouldn't. And I don't think there's anything wrong with her opinion around fracking and how she has spoken about it, changing over the course of her experience. Those who worry about, is she being genuine? I can tell you up close and personally, she's quite genuine. And in terms of the facts and the truth, we know that the candidate on the other side is incapable of telling the truth over and over and over again.
What about people who say, and this is actually a bumper sticker I saw on the way up here, that said, I liked $3 a gallon gas and mean tweets better. What do you say to people who say that?
I'm not good at bumper stickers. I like this economy better. I like people speaking to one another with dignity. Don't we want to bring decency back into our public discourse?
But can you say more about why that matters? I mean, I can imagine there are some people who will say decency and civility isn't making the cost of eggs any cheaper for me. What do you say to that?
I'd say take a look at what we were able to accomplish last Congress. Because this Congress, as you well know, Democrats are in the minority. But the Congress before, we passed the infrastructure bill, the PACT Act for our veterans, the IRA dealing with prescription drugs and climate change. All of these things have been engines for this economy. The economy is growing, wages are growing, inflation is down, so this economy is getting better. But we do have to recognize the pain of picking up eggs or bacon. Those prices still have to come down.
Let me ask about another topic. Why do you think it is that when asked, so many voters raise immigration as a concern, including, I think, some voters you'd really like to get and maybe you would have on other issues?
Because it is a concern. We need a civilized, humane immigration system. This country was built on migrants, but immigration, our system is broken. And that was true not just for this current administration, it was true under Mr. Trump. I visited the border, and what I have seen is a system and Border Patrol agents that are heroic. They're doing amazing work, but they are understaffed. They don't have enough money or resources. You saw that we had a bipartisan bill that was going to be quite conservative to deal with immigration, and Mr. Trump scuttled it.
Trick question. And Trump did call for that bill to be killed. You're correct. Is the purpose of the immigration system to let people in or keep people out?
It should be actually a give and take. You know, this notion of just shut it down, just shut it down. If you're at any border crossing, what you actually know is it is a huge part of our economy that people are coming in and out every day to go to school, to go to work. Mr. Trump promises mass deportation and high tariffs. Do you know what that will result in? Top economists have told us. Inflationary, recessionary cycles.
It's closing argument time. We're 2 weeks out. Do you want to make a closing argument?
I have 3 sons, 3 daughters-in-law, 4 grandchildren, another one on the way maybe this week. I see this election entirely through their eyes, their futures, and their children's futures. This is about character. This is about integrity. This is about people willing to tell you the truth even when it is uncomfortable. And the answer is so obvious. It's Kamala Harris.
Congresswoman Madeleine Dean, Pennsylvania 4th, thank you so much for joining us
Thank you for
today.
having me.
Thank you for
What
coming.
a pleasure.
Thank you.
We're listening back to highlights of our live morning edition event last night at NPR station WHYY.
So for Dean, the decision between Harris and former President Donald Trump comes down to character. Our co-host Steve Inskeep and Michelle Martin then turned to Florida Congressman Byron Donalds, who is campaigning for Trump in Pennsylvania with a different message to voters.
The number one is the economy and, frankly, inflation, which has really crippled families. The second one is immigration, that under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, illegal immigrants have come into the United States, and they've been spread in every town, county, city across the United States.
In Pennsylvania, the former president talked about Charleroi, which is a small city, and we've done some reporting there.
Right.
It appears that there was a food packing plant that needed extra workers, couldn't find them locally, and the people who ultimately took the job were Haitians who have temporary protected status, as I understand it, in the United States.
Yes.
Senator Vance, he says, I will call them illegal regardless of their status. Are they illegal to you?
Well, how they actually came to be in the United States is because the country of Haiti has been devastated, frankly, by the fact that rival gangs now run that country. And so the United States did give temporary protected status. I think the thing that needs to be understood is the fact that they're kind of the straw that is breaking the camel's back with the 10 million plus illegal immigrants from countries around the globe that are in the United States.
How mass is the mass deportation supposed to be?
First, you have to start with criminal aliens, convicted murderers in the United States. You start with them and you start working your way down.
To the point of the border bill, I mean, the fact is, the border bill that was negotiated in a bipartisan fashion, some of your very conservative members helped to negotiate this bill, brought it before the body, and the former president said to kill it because he was pretty clear about this because he wanted to run on immigration as an issue. Why would you agree to that?
Well, I'm glad you brought this up because there's been a lot of, I would say, misreporting about this particular border bill. The bill was dropped on a Sunday night. I read the bill the second the bill dropped. My first call was to Speaker Johnson. And I said, Speaker, there's no way this bill should get a vote in the House. I did not talk to Donald Trump. House leadership, Mike Johnson, Steve Scalise, both put out statements the next day saying that bill was dead on arrival in the House and it would not get a vote. So the media talking point that Donald Trump killed this bill is not accurate. That bill was killed because House leadership said very clearly it would not get a vote in the House of Representatives, and it died.
Okay, let's just move on to another topic here if we can. One of the very few truly undecided voters that I've encountered when talking with people here in Pennsylvania is a man named William Timbers. He's a steel worker in Western Pennsylvania. He's African American. He's been working for 26 years, put his kids through school. He is with you on abortion rights. He is with you on social issues. His problem with your candidate has to do with his talk about being a dictator on the first day. His talk about an hour of rough treatment and crime would go away, which he saw as a call for violence. How would you answer that voter who sees example after example after example in which he hears former President Trump saying he will go outside the rule of law and outside the democratic process?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, one thing that's been debunked about this dictator on day one, he was actually being sarcastic. What he was referring to, oh, come on now, everybody. Come on now, everybody. We have a studio audience.
It's okay. I understand what you're
saying. But let me be clear about what he was talking about was actually putting back into place executive orders that Joe Biden undid when Joe Biden became president of the United States.
One other question about the former president's statements. Our correspondent Tom Dreisbach went through a number of the president's speeches, this is his own words, in recent months and found roughly 100 threats to investigate, prosecute, jail, or otherwise punish his perceived enemies. In your view, is that all sarcasm, or is that something that is meant?
I look at reality. Back in the 2016 campaign, obviously lock her up was all the rage at the rallies. Did Donald Trump turn the Department of Justice on Hillary Clinton? No, he did not. He actually did not.
Well, he did call for investigations.
Did he instruct Bill Barr to go after Hillary Clinton? No, he did not. We have seen the Department of Justice go after Donald Trump on multiple times. You could agree or disagree on the charges, but the reality is that we have seen a weaponization of the Department of Justice under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
I'm going to give you a closing word as we did to Representative Dean. Sure. If you're looking at a voter who's never voted for Trump before, is deeply skeptical, what's your 30-second pitch to this man?
This is the greatest Pepsi Taste challenge in American politics. You've had two administrations. Who did it better? On immigration, on the economy, on foreign policy, you name the issue, Donald Trump was a significantly better president than Joe Biden / Kamala Harris.
Representative Donalds, thanks for taking the questions. I really appreciate it.
Steve Inskeep and Michelle Martin at a live event for our We the Voters series at member station WHYY. They'll bring us more of their reporting tomorrow on a special show live from a South Philly coffee shop. This is NPR News.
WNYC is supported by CUNY TV, presenting Audio Maverick, a 9-part documentary about producer Hyman Brown, whose programs brought millions of families around their radios each night. Available on all streaming platforms and at tv.cuny.edu. Leadership support for WNYC's local and digital news initiatives is provided by the Jerome L. Green Foundation, a proud supporter of New York City's major cultural institutions.
Support for NPR comes from member stations and from Focus Features presenting Conclave, based on the novel, starring Ralph Fiennes, Stanley Tucci, John Lithgow, and Isabella Rossellini, directed by Edward Berger, in theaters everywhere this Friday. The Lodestar Foundation, inspired by the principle that helping someone else less fortunate is a path to a happier, healthier, and more meaningful life. Learn more at lodestarfoundation.org. And Subaru. Subaru has donated more than $60 million to support the adoption, rescue, transport, and health of more than 504,000 animals. Learn more at subaru.com/pets.
A healthy democracy relies on informed citizens, and informed citizens rely on independent news that they can trust. So we've cut the drive in half so we can get back to the news and election coverage you rely on. And we rely on you for the amount we would normally need to raise in a full-length drive. Yeah, it's a challenge. It's a risk. And we need your help to make it succeed. So please help by becoming a member right now. Here's how.
By calling 888-376-9692 or pledging your support online. That's at WNYC.org. This is our All the Money in Half the Time fundraiser. We're asking you to support WNYC. Do it right now by calling 888-376-9692 or pledge your support online at WNYC.org. There's a donate button at the top of that page. This is Morning Edition on WNYC. I'm Michael Hill, and with us is Christina Newman-Scott, Executive Director of WNYC's Green Space. Christina, good morning.
Good morning, Michael. Michael, do you know some people think that if we heard your voice on the subway every morning, we would all be more chill? Just our day would start out.
Oh, that sounds great.
Isn't that nice?
I can make that happen.
I would like that to happen. I honestly would. But let me tell you a little bit about what's happening now. Okay, Michael, we are 100 years old, and we've been serving New York for those 100 years, and we want to serve New York for another 100 years, right? We are proud and grateful to have served New Yorkers all this time, but it's not only about what we have done, but what we can do. So we need to build a strong future for WNYC, and we need your support to make that happen. Don't sit out this fundraiser. There's too much at stake. So you might consider giving us a $100 donation to celebrate our 100-year legacy, or you could give $100 a month and join the producer circle. Choose the amount that's best for you and call 888-376-9692 or click the donate button on our app or at WNYC.org.
The classic WNYC tote. You trust it with your groceries and books. You might even say you take it for granted. Now imagine a tote that is so special, it took us 100 years to make. It's the WNYC Centennial Tote. 100 years of trusted news and great conversations, all wrapped up in one very sturdy package. It's got our Centennial logo on the front to celebrate how far we've come, and a custom illustration by New York artist Katie Murs on the back to celebrate all the voices of the city. Plus, with those stylish red handles, it's perfect for carrying your groceries, books, or if you're a longtime supporter, other totes. Made especially for our 100th-year anniversary, it's our way of saying thank you. Make a contribution and grab your Centennial tote right now. Here's how.
By calling 888-376-9692. Even better for this gift, go to WNYC.org. Look for that red donate button at the top of the page, and then look for the WNYC Centennial tote bag and other great, wonderful thank you gifts on the website there. We have a brand new tote, as you just heard there from Allison, to celebrate 100 years of WNYC. This new tote is white canvas with red straps. It has our Centennial logo on one side, a custom illustration by New York artist Katie Murs on the other side. Make a $100 donation to celebrate our 100-year legacy, celebrate the past, and also celebrate and prepare for the future. We'll be happy to send you one of these totes. Go to WNYC.org, check out the donate button and the tote bag there, or call 888-376-9692.
Let me ask you, how many hours a week are you listening to WNYC? Getting ready for work, commuting, making dinner, or errands on the weekend? It adds up. WNYC is here informing you throughout your entire week, and you wouldn't want to be without it. So it isn't worth, it is worth, because you know what Michael is about to be like, it isn't worth, but let me tell you something, it is double worth, okay? $10 or $15 a month to keep it in your life and keep it strong and independent. The largest source of funding for WNYC comes from our listeners, so please sign up as a sustaining member now during this All the Money in Half the Time fundraiser. Call 888-376-WNYC, that's 888-376-9692, or donate online at WNYC.org. We need your support.
WNYC supporters include Swan Galleries with an auction of fine books on Thursday, October 24th, which includes rare and unpublished photographs of Ernest Hemingway during his World War I service. More at swangalleries.com.
WNYC, independent journalism in the public interest. 93.9 FM and AM 820. NPR News and the New York Conversation.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Dave Mattingly. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says there's evidence North Korea has sent troops to Russia amid Moscow's ongoing war with Ukraine. Austin says it's unclear what the North Korean troops are doing there or how many are in Russia. Austin spoke to reporters today in Rome, where he offered his assessment on what this means for Russian President Vladimir Putin.
You've heard me talk about the significant casualties that he has experienced over the last 2.5 years. This is an indication that he may be even in more trouble than most people realize.
Russia and North Korea have denied the troop movements. South Korea's spy chief says there are 3,000 North Korean troops in Russia being trained before deployment to Ukraine. Swing states continue to be the focus of Vice President Harris and former President Donald Trump, with Election Day in November now less than 2 weeks away. Harris's Democratic running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, was in Wisconsin last night, urging supporters to vote.
We're running like everything's on the line because everything's on the line. Everything's on the line.
Trump was back in North Carolina last night at a rally in Greensboro. He campaigns in Georgia today. This is NPR News from Washington.
And this is WNYC. It's 61 degrees at 8:31. I'm Janae Pierre. Mayor Eric Adams is drawing attention for his muted criticism of former President Trump. At the Al Smith dinner last week, Trump expressed sympathy for Adams, who's facing federal corruption charges and has pleaded not guilty. The Republican presidential nominee plans to return to the Big Apple on Sunday for a rally at Madison Square Garden. The event is expected to draw protests from Democrats, but Adams says he's got other plans.
Meditate. Meditate. There's so much energy going on now. We just got to get into that peaceful mode.
Adams has not played a role in the Harris campaign. Shortly after his indictment, he said he was targeted because of his criticism of the federal response to the migrant crisis. A look at your commute. 7 trains are delayed entering Flushing Main Street. Southbound 8 trains are behind as well. On New Jersey Transit, Northeast Corridor westbound rail service is subject to up to 20-minute delays. They say that's due to Amtrak overhead wire issues. The air quality is moderate today due to some particle pollution. There are low amounts of grass and weed pollen in the air. It's 61 degrees. It'll be sunny today with highs near 74. Partly cloudy skies expected tonight with a low around 57 and a slight chance of sprinkles overnight. Sunny skies ahead on Thursday with a high around 62 degrees. You're listening to WNYC at 8:33.
Support for NPR comes from WNYC members and from Sony Pictures, presenting the new movie Here, reuniting the director, writer, and stars of Forrest Gump, a tale of love, loss, laughter, and life. Here is only in theaters on Friday, November 1st. And Indeed, designed to be an end-to-end hiring solution for businesses of all sizes to attract, interview, and hire candidates, all from one platform. Learn more at Indeed.com/NPR.
It's Morning Edition on WNYC. I'm Michael Hill. New York City doesn't have any competitive congressional races in this year's general election, but as WNYC's John Campbell reports, the city's handling of an influx of migrants is having an effect on key races in other parts of the state.
If you've been on Long Island recently, there's a decent chance you've seen this ad.
I'm Laura Gillen, and I'm here at the border of Nassau County.
She's there to talk about a different border between the U.S. and Mexico, some 2,000 miles away. Gillen is running for Congress against Representative Anthony D'Esposito, and she's trying to push back against the idea that Democrats are weak on border security.
I will work with anyone from any party to secure our southern border.
You probably wouldn't have seen a Democrat run an ad like this a couple years ago. But now, immigration policy is a huge issue in a handful of key congressional races in New York City's suburbs and beyond. And that's thanks in part to the city's struggle to shelter tens of thousands of migrants, some of whom were housed elsewhere in New York State.
I think when it comes to my opponent and I, we're just diametrically opposed.
That's Representative Mark Molinaro. His district stretches from the Hudson Valley to Ithaca. He's made border security a huge issue in a tough race against Democrat Josh Riley. His opponent is a lawyer who helped fight against two of Donald Trump's border policies. his ban on refugees from largely Muslim countries, and his push to end protections for certain immigrants who arrived as children.
This guy works for a Washington, D.C. law firm that wanders the halls of Congress, lobbying, advocating, and pressuring for policy. And his policy pressure was to dismantle Trump border security. It's as simple as that.
Riley's launched his own ad to push back against Republican criticism.
On the border, I've opposed the president, and I'll fight for real solutions.
He says he wants to hire more border agents and judges to handle asylum claims. He faults Molinaro for failing to support a bipartisan border security bill in the Senate, which Trump reportedly pushed to kill. And he's got nothing good to say about New York City Mayor Eric Adams' decision to house some migrants in upstate hotels.
He's been a complete failure on this, and it's just another example of upstate New Yorkers being forced to foot the bill for stupid policies out of New York City.
The races on Long Island and in the Hudson Valley could help determine which party takes control of the House of Representatives. As it stands, Republicans have a narrow majority. Every seat is on the ballot November 5th. John Campbell, WNYC News.
Support for NPR comes from member stations and from the Wallace Foundation, working to develop and share practices that can improve learning and enrichment for young people, and the vitality of the arts for everyone. Ideas and information at wallacefoundation.org, and Jarl and Pamela Mohn, focusing on civil liberties, foster youth, public radio, and the arts.
I'm LaFontaine Oliver, President and CEO of New York Public Radio. As we all navigate the challenges of the present and the uncertainty of the future, we need WNYC more than ever. It's up to all of us to keep it going, which is why I'm asking you to please give now. As we set out on a second century of public service journalism, your contribution during the pledge drive will allow us to stand strong. Give now at WNYC.org or call 888-376-WNYC.
That's 888-376-9692, or you can pledge your support right there online. That's at WNYC.org. This is the WNYC All the Money in Half the Time fundraiser, so we can raise all the money we can get in half the time so you can get right back to the news and programming you value on WNYC. Call us now and participate. Financially support WNYC. Donate now at 888-376-9692. Operators are standing by, or you can go online and do it yourself at WNYC.org. There's a donate button right there at the top of the page. I'm Michael Hill. Christina Newman-Scott, Executive Director of WNYC's Green Space, with us this morning, and she's having a really good time. I wish you could see her popping her fingers and moving all around. She's
doing the most.
Really enjoying this fundraiser.
Yep, this is a chair aerobic workout because it is all the money in half the time. We need to be fit, okay? And so we are 100 years old. Thank you. Thank you for allowing us to serve you for 100 years. But we want to keep doing that for another 100 years. You might have joined us at Central Park in September for our live celebration for a centennial, or July 8th, right in the green space downstairs. Your support keeps us giving you the news that you need to be an informed New Yorker. So consider making a $100 donation to celebrate this legacy, or $100 a month and join the producer circle. Choose the amount that makes sense for you, and you can do that by calling 888-376-9692 or click the donate button on our app or at WNYC.org.
Introducing the WNYC Centennial Tote Bag. This classic canvas tote with special bold red handles was a century in the making. One side features a custom design by native Brooklynite and muralist Katie Mers. Flip it over and you've got our Centennial logo, celebrating 100 years of stories, news, and connection. It's perfect for just about anything. Groceries, books, or honestly, just looking awesome while you wander around the city. It's not just a tote, it is a piece of public radio history. Make a contribution today, claim your Centennial tote, and support the news and shows you rely on. Do it now, here's how.
By going to WNYC.org, click the donate button. Also click on the link there and look at all the great thank you gifts that we have, including the WNYC Centennial Tote. unveiled just this morning. Or you can call 888-376-9692 to participate in this All the Money in Half the Time fund drive. We're trying to do it as simple as we can. Raise the money needed to pay for the news, the information, the programs you rely on, with only half the time spent on fundraising. So take your part. Do your part. Don't put it off. Do it now. 888-376-9692 or pledge your support. That's at WNYC.org.
Right, Michael. So let's go back to a quick Patois lesson. Okay, I'm going to do one and you do the one. So every mikkel meka mokkel or
1 cocoa full basket.
Okay, we got a new Jamaican in the house. It is All the Money and Half the Time fundraiser. This is a crucial day of fundraising for WNYC, and participation from all of our listeners right now is essential for us to continue to bring you the news and reporting you rely on in the months ahead. So here's who we need to hear from today. New members, start a monthly gift today. Returning members, you've given in the past, but you haven't in a while. Sustaining members, there's so many of you. Thank you. Consider adding a little bump, like maybe even $3. Every mikkel meka mokkel, which means every little bit helps. Producer Circle, if you've been considering donating, right, Michael, $100 per month or more to join the Producer Circle, now is the time to do it. No matter who you are, you're listening, and it's time to help support. Give now at WNYC.org or call 888-376-WNYC. That's 888-376-9692. Right,
Yay! 9692 or WNYC.org. Thank you.
It's Morning Edition from NPR News. I'm Leila Fadel in Washington, D.C.
And I'm A. Martinez in Los Angeles, California. California is not a swing state, and so it's largely left out of the presidential contest.
Right, but this year, control of the House of Representatives could be determined by the deeply blue state. About 5 House seats are considered among the closest in the country and could go either way.
Guy Marzorati from member station KQED has been following these elections in California. So, Guy, all 5 of the California races that are considered toss-ups by Cook Political Report are held by Republicans. So how are they able to compete and keep these races very tight in a state that's bluer than Frank Sinatra's eyes?
Right. Well, I think in many cases it's Republicans here kind of succeeding in spite of Trump. You mentioned those 5 toss-up seats. Voters in 4 of those 5 districts actually voted for Joe Biden in 2020, some by a pretty wide margin. So yeah, how are Republicans surviving? I think some of it has to do with the candidates, right? These kind of GOP incumbents have established their own political identities apart from Trump. But the voters here are unique too. I talked to University of California Irvine Dean John Gould. He does a lot of polling on those swing district voters in Orange County, including a lot of Republicans.
Who at a congressional level think Republican, but at a presidential level are put off by Trump and the election denialism and January 6th. And some of the social issues that they don't agree with him or the party on, particularly on abortion.
I just will say, that this kind of ticket splitting, voting for a Democrat for president, voting for a Republican for Congress, it's getting more and more rare nationally. And I think the big question here for the GOP is, can they just keep it up in 2024?
All right, so tell us about the districts that Republicans are trying to defend.
Yeah, I'll start with the Central Valley, California's big agricultural region. There you have these 2 Republican incumbents, John Duarte, David Valadao, who are both actually facing rematches from 2022. There's a district near Merced where Duarte is facing former Assemblyman Adam Gray. That race was just about decided by 500 votes in 2022, and we have seen since Duarte has taken office, he's kind of followed this long tradition of Central Valley Republicans who have broken with their party on immigration. He's actually voted against tougher restrictions.
Family's been here 5 years, 10 years, working hard, showing up to work, not breaking the law. I want to give them full access to the American dream, and I simply disagree with certain members of my party on this.
And meanwhile, down in Bakersfield, you have David Valadao. He's one of the only Republicans to vote to impeach Trump after January 6th. He's getting another challenge from Democrat Rudy Salad. And I think, big picture, what you're seeing in these Central Valley elections is a lot of focus on the cost of living. Ads on gas prices, on food prices, drug prices. These are the issues the candidates are battling over.
Let's keep heading south through California, a bit closer to me here in Southern California. How are the campaigns shaping up here? I got to imagine that they're in Orange County.
That's right. Orange County continues to be the biggest battleground. It used to be a Republican stronghold. It's moved left. And really what we've seen here is Democrats benefiting from this idea of the diploma divide, right? Voters with college degrees moving towards the Democratic Party. And as a result, I think you see the issues campaigns debating over here are less about pocketbook issues than in the Central Valley. You have Democrats like Dave Min. He's running to succeed Katie Porter. He's really running a campaign focused on fiscally moderate, but really socially liberal voters.
I've been strong on women's reproductive rights, on gun safety, on climate, and you'll note that the Republican Party is not attacking me on those issues, right? Because they're popular issues. I think I reflect the values of this district.
Republicans definitely also have their eye on that Katie Porter seat, and they're also defending a seat held by incumbent Michelle Steele.
That's KQED's politics correspondent, Guy Marzorati in San Jose. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Ed.
A new survey of more than 200 transgender teenagers asked, have they felt regret after pursuing gender-affirming care? Here's NPR's Selena Simmons-Duffin.
Way back in 2013, psychology professor Christina Olson of Princeton University started the Trans Youth Project.
Our team was interested in recruiting a group of kids who were socially transitioning and just following them and sort of seeing what their life would look like as they moved into adolescence and adulthood.
Last year, 220 families in the study took a survey about how they felt about their gender care. At this point, they're mostly teenagers, 16 years old on average. Most started puberty blockers about 5 years earlier and or cross-sex hormones about 3.5 years earlier.
What we found was that this group had very high levels of satisfaction.
Only 4% of the participants expressed regret with some aspect of their care. Olson says from being in touch regularly, she knew many of the participants were happy with their gender-affirming care.
I was pretty surprised at how satisfied they were. Like, more than 50% said a 7 on a 7-point scale.
Olson's study, published Monday in JAMA Pediatrics, comes at a time when transgender kids and their medical care are in the political spotlight. 26 states in the U.S. have banned the care the youth in this study received. The latest of these laws to take effect was in Wyoming. Republican State Representative Pepper Ottman was a co-sponsor of that state's ban.
We need to protect these children from lifelong mistakes. These things are not good.
Lindsay Dawson directs LGBTQ health policy at the research organization KFF. She says this and other studies show regret for gender-affirming care is extremely low, especially when you compare it to other medical decisions like gastric bypass surgery or medications with significant side effects like birth control. She says the high satisfaction and low regret findings in the Olson study are important.
Discourse around regret when it comes to gender-affirming care has become a common form of misinformation in debates, in policy making, and in the courts.
The Supreme Court will hear arguments in a case about whether these kinds of bans are constitutional in the coming weeks. Selena Simmons-Duffin, NPR News.
It's Morning Edition from NPR News. May Martinez.
And I'm Layla Falden.
Support for WNYC comes from Carnegie Hall, presenting Angelique Kidjo, celebrating her 40-year career with a concert featuring her latest project, African Symphony with the Color of Noise Orchestra, November 2nd. Tickets at carnegiehall.org. Left on 10th, now playing on Broadway. Juliana Margulies and Peter Gallagher star in this new play written by Delia Ephraim, based on her memoir with direction from Susan Stroman. Tickets at lefton10thbroadway.com.
We're in the waning minutes here of listener-supported Morning Edition on WNYC. Asking for your support this morning, your financial support to keep us strong for the next 100 years here on WNYC. With us this morning is Christina Newman-Scott, Executive Director of the Green Space here at WNYC. Christina and I are raising all the money we can in half the time with this fundraiser so we can get back to the news and the programming you value on WNYC. Call us now to support us, 888-376-9692, or pledge your support online. That's at WNYC.org.
Yes, Michael, we are putting in the work because we are 100 years old. And I have another quick one for you, Michael, in our Patois lesson. Real quick. Ready? And just marinate on it for later. Me ul, but me no cool. That means it. Respect the knowledge. Me ul, but me no cool. Because WNYC has been thriving for over 100 years thanks to listener support. So please continue to support us. Give us a $100 donation to celebrate this legacy, or give $100 a month and join the producer circle. Choose the amount that's best for you, all right? Call 888-376-9692 or click the donate button on our app or at WNYC.org.
The classic WNYC tote. You trust it with your groceries and books. You might even say you take it for granted. Now imagine a tote that is so special, it took us 100 years to make. It's the WNYC Centennial Tote. 100 years of trusted news and great conversations, all wrapped up in one very sturdy package. It's got our Centennial logo on the front to celebrate how far we've come, and a custom illustration by New York artist Katie Mers on the back to celebrate all the voices of the city. Plus, with those stylish red handles, it's perfect. Other totes. Made especially for our 100th year anniversary, it's our way of saying thank you. Make a contribution and grab your Centennial tote right now. Here's how.
By going to WNYC.org or calling 888-376-9692. But you can see the bag and other thank you gifts. That's at WNYC.org. That's O-R-G right there to see those wonderful thank you gifts. And that canvas tote is there. We're unveiling that this morning. That's the WNYC Centennial Tote. Why don't you go ahead and check it out right now and donate while you're there. Make a donation to celebrate our 100-year legacy, and we'll be happy to send you this tote. That's WNYC.org or call 888-376-9692.
Your support helps us to keep programs like America Are We Ready, which is coming on tonight, 8 o'clock with Brian Lehrer and co-host Kimberly Adams. You got to tune in. So your donation supports this kind of election coverage. Call 888-376-9692 or donate at WNYC.org. We need your support. It is so instrumental, and we are very, very grateful.
It is the season income tax brackets wander a bit.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Affinity, provider of the CRM for the private capital relationship economy. Affinity knows who has the best relationship with the right startup. Affinity.co/marketplace. And by Clear Channel Outdoor, an out-of-home billboard company harnessing innovation and technology to connect advertisers with consumers. Billboardsforbusiness.com.
I'm David Brancaccio in New York. Americans have a better idea of the taxes they'll be paying in 2025, given new federal adjustments to standard deductions and income tax brackets. The annual tweaks matter, especially for people with income that might be at the upper edge of a tax bracket. Does it flip to the higher tax or not? Marketplace's Elizabeth Troval has more.
When it comes to paying Uncle Sam, two big things to know in 2025 are that
the 7 tax brackets, they're all indexed higher.
Jim Buffington is a CPA at Intuit.
And 90% of taxpayers use the standard deduction in their tax returns. And that deduction is going to rise $400 for single filers and $800 for married filing joint filers.
Those changes are so the government doesn't take a bigger bite out of your sandwich than it should. They're adjusted this year to an inflation rate of 2.8%, says Alan Auerbach at UC Berkeley.
If your income went up by 2.8%, it really didn't go up at all because the cost of the things you're buying also went up by 2.8%.
So the tax system adjusts to reflect that. Alex Durante is with the Tax Foundation think tank.
The idea with the inflation adjustments is like, okay, holding this tax code constant, like how do we adjust, for inflation so that the tax liabilities don't change?
If we didn't make these adjustments, taxpayers would get bumped up to higher tax brackets, even if their purchasing power didn't go up. I'm Elizabeth Troval for Marketplace.
Also, remember your effective tax rate is lower than the top tax bracket because the first chunks of income are taxed at 10 or 12%. Boeing just reported its deepest quarterly loss since pandemic 2020, minus $6 billion. That's billion with a B as in Boeing. Its new CEO is talking of a leaner road ahead. Striking Boeing machinists start voting on a tentative contract deal right about now. Markets S&P and NASDAQ futures are down between 4 and 0.5%.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Amazon Business, aiming to help save time by offering smart business buying solutions so there's more time to focus on growing the business and less time doing the admin. More at AmazonBusiness.com. And by C3 Generative AI, verified traceable answers, secure hallucination-free, LLM-agnostic, IP liability-free C3.ai. This is Enterprise AI. And by Rubrik. When cyber attacks put businesses at risk, Rubrik provides the power to bounce back fast. More at Rubrik.com.
I'm LaFontaine Oliver, President and CEO of New York Public Radio.